Hi, this is Nancy Pietras from Bayer's Pampered Stamper, and we're here to talk about the new Ranger Distress Embossing Glaze. A lot of fun, a lot of things you can do with it. You're going to think, oh, I have plenty of embossing powder, but this is totally different than embossing powder. I wanted to make sure you knew that if you had a box at home that held the distressed crayons, this is the same box, and Melissa has some in the store right now. There are 12 different colors. I wanted to kind of walk you through them. This is a small tag that, I should turn it this way, shouldn't I? That was just stamped, and I want to show you the glaze that goes over the stamp, and the black from the stamp really enhances the color. Peeled paint, cracked pistachio, broken china, I love that one, tattered rose, fired brick, weathered wood, and these samples will be in the shop if you want to see them. Fossilized amber, antique linen, rusty hinge, vintage photo, walnut stain, hickory smoke, and this is one that I used distressed powder, dried marigold, to show you traditional embossing powder that and what it would look like on top of a printed image. So these glazes are very translucent. They come in 12 colors. I imagine we'll see more colors in the future. But I want to start by using this bird. It's from the set Stampendous. Melissa has some in stock. I happen to really like these. These are good for watercoloring, but I also found this is a lot of fun using with the glazes, and I'll show you some different things that I've been doing with them. So to use these translucent glazes, you need to have something for it to stick on. So you could use the watermark, Versamark watermark. You could use the new Ranger Emboss It Dauber and the Distress Embossing Pens. It comes 2 to a package. They're both clear, so you know you'll have a lot of use. One's a brush end and one's a bullet end for more detail. I've been using the brush end primarily, but we're going to start with just doing the Versamark over the stamped image. For no reason, I'm going to take my broken china and put over the image. I didn't really plan exactly where I wanted the powder or how far I wanted it to go up. When you do this, don't shake too much of it off. I'll set that aside. I have these sitting here open. So you just want to dry that glaze. It takes about as long. You can watch it emboss, just like embossing powder. This is very boring. Sorry about that. Look how that image is really brightening up now. Can you see that beautiful glaze? I didn't finish doing all of the glaze, but isn't that beautiful? And what I want to do is put some on this side. I'll pick a different color where it's not dry, where I didn't finish glossing. You can see I pulled some of it off, but I don't think that'll really matter. And I'm going to quickly glaze this side, not being particularly fancy about doing it. And then I want to show you, you can stamp the image on top of glaze as well. Give it a minute, just a quick minute to dry. I'm using the little picket fence that we have in the shop. It's a hybrid. It acts like an archival ink, and it also doesn't move when you use this on top of it. So I'm just going to quickly stamp this bird and show you what the stamped image over the glaze would look like and what it looks like with the glaze under it. Oh, I didn't wait for it to fully dry, so it slid on me. But every time I've done it, it's pretty much slid on me. So it's very slippery surface once it's glazed. So it really is better to do your stamp image first. But that's the fun of playing with these things, looking at what'll work, what doesn't work, what you have to be a little more careful about. So I just wanted to show you that piece. I also want to show you, we'll get the parts out, what would happen if we use distressed inks on the paper. No, sorry, backwards. I want to use this dauber. In a couple of the videos I watched, it said use the store the dauber upside down for best use. I'm just going to put a couple of dauber marks, little dots here and there, no place special, and then I'm going to put some glaze over it. Now, one of the videos that did something like this, the video itself, the dauber had a more full circle. So I don't really know if it's me, I haven't broken in my dauber good enough yet, or what. So you want to, excuse me, dry or heat glaze these. If I was really good at this, I would do some fast forwarding, but I'm not really quite that professional. Matter of fact, not professional at all. I'm going to use my broken china because I really like this one best. It's one of my favorite colors. Although a lot of people are really talking about the cracked pistachio a lot lately. Get those heated. Okay, let's just pretend I've got the dauber everywhere, all over the surface. You know, just kind of fast forward it for. And then I'm going to take this wonderful Pink and Main brush, and I'm going to brush over the surface with distressed ink. Now, I have used also opaque, and I'll show you the sample of that. I am using two colors. This is Stormy Sky, and the other one I'm going to use is Tumbled Glass. So we're just going to think that all of this has color on it already, or little dots and in glazed. And I'll show you what my finished product looks like. So you can just work away at making a background that makes you happy. When I use my opaque distress inks, I use a different brush. I find that that works a whole lot better because it has a different texture. For this one, this is my finished product. It had multiple colors on. I decided to do a message on here. I triple stamped the hello. This is one of the Sizzix Tims. But I wanted to show you that you can take the message, emboss it well. I shouldn't say emboss it. Get the watermark, Versamark on it really well. Well, it's getting good and sticky. And then you can add color to it, any color you would like. I think that I might use, well, cracked pistachio because it's right here and open. Pick that up with a pair of tweezers very carefully. Knock it off, and I'll have to get that put away, but let me get this, well, I better get this way out of the way. If you think you didn't get quite enough glaze on it, you can always add a little bit more. I'm going to glue this down to, and I did 3 layers of the background. And I see here, I didn't pop out my O, which I do want to do. Okay, so I'm going to get this glued down to the hello, to the shadow. If you think you didn't get enough glaze on it, you could have done it a second time if you'd like. But one thing I saw on several of the videos is that you should heat set it one more time to smooth out the edges. So I could set this on here. When I did this particular one, I set it on. I put some of the Gina K little gems on it. I really have fallen in love with those little clear gems. I think you've seen them probably already. And I put some of those on. But then I had this die that made several flowers. So I took the, excuse me, let me punch these out. I glazed some up, and I decided, why don't I put a few flowers on here too, just to add a little bit different dimension. So I'm going to put some flowers on. I'm going to glue 2, pop 1 up. Yes, I have the pop-ups. Well, somewhere close. So you can make quite a lot of little flowers ahead of time by just doing a piece of paper that you glaze. You can add your little pearls to it, the center of the flower if you want. To add one more dimension. Oh, I didn't glue that down very good. Ah! Well, maybe that's where it wants to go. You could use any color. It doesn't really matter. And your form probably when you design a card will be a lot different than mine, but just to show multiple techniques as quick as possible. So you can glaze a plain sheet of white paper. When you're done doing the distress ink, you can brighten up your glaze by just rubbing a little rag over it. Some people use a wet one, but I don't like what it does to the distress ink underneath. And so you can brighten that up because there is a little residue of the direct to paper distress ink. So I thought I'd show you that. A lot of little fun things to do, things you probably have in the closet. The next thing I want to show you is working with stencils. Pretty easy to do. You've all worked with stencils before. Piece of paper. I'm going to work on this scrap piece. I'm going to use just what I happen to have at home here, which happens to be the embossing paste by Wendy Vecchi. When you're doing this, make sure you have some water close by so that you can rinse off your stencil, because what's on there could stay there very easily for you. Neat freak people could probably tie this down, you know, so you don't screw. Thin, very thin, because you want it to dry fast. So I'm sure I'm thin enough. Well, I hope I am. We're going to pull this off. I have my dots. I'll throw that in the water. And now the fun. We're going to color it. I have some colors sitting here ready to go. I'm going to use fire brick first. Maybe a little, let's see, this is the fossilized amber. It's all right if it gets on the other one a little. Kind of enhances it if that happens. We'll use broken china. I just got some out ahead of time so that I wouldn't have to be opening and closing bottles. Because it isn't that I don't love the other colors. I'm going to do antique linen in this last section. Now you can allow this piece to dry overnight and then it'll emboss with glaze, or you can emboss it right away. If you do it right away, what you're going to find that you're going to get a few little bubbles in it, as you would with any of the pastes. So I'm going to let mine sit here while we're talking, and I'll show you 3 things that I did with that. I once again used this Stampenda set. And I took the piece that I had dried, glazed, and just simply cut some holes in it. So I would have some pieces. I set one back in. I put some different pieces from the stamp set, and then I made some little flowers. And what I did, and I'm going to show you how to do that, is I actually used the embossing pen and colored in the leaves, the flowers, and the bird with glaze. It was a multiple step thing, but I thought it was kind of fun. I love the snarky cat, who doesn't? And once again, I colored the cat with glaze, and I think for the eyes, I'm going to use some glossy accents and bring those eyes out. So these are just some popped pieces from the original piece. And then I just took some big pieces, cut out one, and just made a kind of a collage looking piece. Not my favorite, but I'm sure you will come up with lots of creative ideas. I do not want to take time to dry this because you don't need to listen to the heat gun any longer. And I think you get the idea. You just need to have to dry it. The last piece I want to do, this piece of paper, I use glossy accents on it. No, I used distressed opaque inks on it. I used 3 colors. I used peacock feathers. I used Mill Lavender and Shabby Shutters. And then I kind of like mixed them a little. What I also did is I spritzed it with water. So I got a little bit of watermark, not a lot. Then I stamped the greeting on, but I stamped each of these on so that I could make them a different color. So let me just do one for you. I'm using the leaves from that same stamp set. Make sure my piece is done. I'm going to use Versamark. And I tried to match the colors a little bit as I did this. I thought that would be kind of fun. So you can do the Versamark direct to a stamp, and then you can add a color. This is kind of a pinky one, so I am going to add this fired brick. I want it bold. Emboss it real quick, get that out of the way. Had I used my little embossing buddy, I might not have gotten some of that on the edge. And actually I had used them on the other ones, and for some reason I didn't think of that just now. What I want to do is put the bird that I have ready kind of in the center of these pieces here. And the bird is close. I have no idea where it is now. So I'm going to put this one here. I am going to Versamark it. I'm going to use the smoke color, Hickory Smoke, to give it a dark outline, as if I had stamped it in black. The Hickory Smoke is quite nice. If you did 2 layers, it really looks very black. Let me get that out of the way. And this. Oh, I see that stamp now. Duh. So the glazed, in this particular case, looks just like it would have if you had used a traditional embossing powder. Okay, so I want to color this now. Okay, it's dried. I'm getting a tiny bit of residue, but I'm not worried about that. Put a little yellow here on the leaves where I just put okay, and I think maybe I'll do a little blue accent here. I'm going to have a wild bird here. Oh, I can see where I didn't put my pen, but that's okay, because I can go back over it, or I could use a whole different color. And let's see. now I want to go back and cover the whole thing up, everything. With antique linen. Oh, no, this is not. Fossilized amber. So this is something, it's very easy to layer. I know this one might not look as pretty as the one I did before, some of my other colored ones, because I hurried, but you can see how easy it is to do and how pretty the multi-layers can be. So that's all I have today. I hope you enjoy playing with your embossing glazes. It's much different than embossing powder and a lot of fun to use. Have a good day.